Welcome to the Astronomical League video series. My name is John Goss, former president of the Astronomical League. This program is in conjunction with the 75th anniversary of the Astronomical League. The league was founded on November 15th, 1946, with just under 1,500 members. Today, we're well over 18,000 members spread across the United States, as well as quite a few international members as well. Today we have with us Bob Kerr, who's the program coordinator of the Advanced Binocular Double Star Program. The league has many programs, probably over 70 of them, which encourage stargazers, amateur astronomers to get out under the stars, gives them some interesting things to look at and some challenges for them to meet. It's supposed to make your nighttime experience much more enjoyable. The Advanced Binocular Double Star Program is one of those. And Bob's going to tell us here just a few minutes on exactly what this program entails. As I said, that this whole series is for the 75th anniversary of the Astronomical League. But throughout the year, we'll be having a number of programs presented. But anyway, I'd like to turn things over to Bob Kerr, who can tell us more about the Advanced Binocular Double Star Observing Program. Bob?
Okay, thanks very much for the introduction, John. It's been great to have a chance to sit down and record this. I think I can see extra value for members or anyone for that matter that wants to know more about how to use their binoculars and having fun observing double stars. There is a preliminary program that is also recorded on the site called just the Binocular Double Star Program, which an individual member of AL would have to complete before beginning this one. So that program is a prerequisite to this program. And this program, the advanced program, actually flowed out of the basic program. When we designed the basic program, we weren't quite sure how well equipped the membership was with binoculars in general. I had read some reports probably put out by manufacturers or maybe one of the astronomy magazines that most amateur astronomers chose 20 by 80 binoculars as their binocular choice. But other kind of anecdotal information pointed to the fact that that wasn't necessarily the case. So the original program was designed for a wide range of binoculars, therefore requiring a wide range of double stars with particular separations and magnitude. This flowed out of that. What we discovered was that there was a definite group of observers of the first program who could more than meet the upper range of the objects we had in the basic program. So I chatted with Aaron Clevenson, who is the national director of the observing programs. And we decided that it made sense to launch an advanced program, which we did maybe 2 years after the original program. So anyone watching this particular module, if you haven't seen the previous module, I would suggest you do that because there is one builds on the other. And to thoroughly maybe understand some of the concepts and terminology I'm going to use, you'd benefit from watching that first program. We're getting on the league website and reading through the material that's on the league website. So as with most of the Astronomical League programs, when they're completed, you're given a certificate. Mine are 8.5 by 11. I think most of them are suitable for framing. People have sent me photos of their awards all over the walls next to their fireplaces. I know of people that keep them in scrapbooks, so they have some value, as does the lapel pin, which is a very attractive thing that people really seem to covet and want. Plus that, your name is recorded in the Reflector magazine, printed quarterly. And what we coordinators do is to track the number of, awards we get in a given quarter and then forward those in batches to the magazine. So it takes a while to see your name in the magazine. but it's always up to date on the searchable online database. At least it's more up to date than you'd find in the magazine. So the various ways you're recognized. There are people that would like us to send the certificate and pin to the observing coordinator of their club, and then it's presented them in person at a local meeting. During the COVID year, we had to change that, and we just send it directly to the member. But so that's recognition they get if they want, and I suggest they do that. It compliments them, and they've worked hard, and they should be recognized. And it also selfishly helps promote the programs to the membership of the local clubs, who is the lifeblood of the league, as most of you probably know. This is what the website looks like at astroleague.org. And I've got this highlighted where we say, welcome to the Advanced Club. Once you've completed the basic program, you're eligible to earn certification, this program. Now, there's nothing, and I know people that observe them at the same time, but I tell them, okay, you can observe them, you can even submit the logs at the same time, but I've got to approve and grant you an award for the first one before I even look at the log you sent me for the second one. Because when people are out there at night, they might as well do both of them and list them at the same time if they like. So you find the things that you enjoyed about the basic program are present and enhanced in this advanced program. Everything's kind of like on steroids from the first program, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Not very original, but it's apt. There are some challenging new requirements too. Opportunities to immerse yourself more fully in the experience you enjoyed to begin with, learning about double stars and your binoculars. This is really about helping people get more utility and functionality out of their binoculars, which they must do if they're going to master these programs. It's all about binoculars. I don't know if we make that kind of distinction so much in the telescope programs. We just assume that people are going to do that. But I think where it comes to binoculars, there are special considerations and special needs. So in this program, we have separations between pairs that are closer, more difficult to split, and we have greater magnitude differences between the components, bright to dim, and we reviewed all of that as part of the original program. So those of you who have done the original program can relate to all of this that I'm saying. Now, objects on the list are identified by their WDS, stands for Washington Double Star Catalog designations, and I'll tell you why in a minute. This is Appendix A, and it's one sheet of the double star list for the advanced program. And for those of you who don't know what the WDS is, it's a catalog maintained by the Naval Observatory, and it's constantly updated. Every night they update it based on new information. And at the top, you'll see that in this catalog, there are 154,000 double star systems accounted for. And this is a visual database. This is visual. So everything we see here can be viewed by backyard telescopes, even though some of the separations are very close and you'd need a pretty hefty telescope. These are not necessarily binocular doubles. I went through here and harvested out some of the better binocular doubles, but this is where I get my information. Every 2 or 3 years, I update the list. Unlike some of the deep sky objects we observe, although we know that they do change position somewhat in the night sky, the double stars are always changing, at least the binaries are. So that they're always changing in terms of separation and position angle, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So what we know is that about 36,000 of these are confirmed physical or binary. In other words, they're gravitationally bound and the components are orbiting the primary. 7,000 are optical, which means line of sight. and they're not physically related. They can be separated by thousands of light years, but almost 112,000 unknown, whether they're common proper motion or just, they could be thousands of light years separated. We don't know. But I do incorporate some of those because they still make attractive double stars. So here's a list, and the designations here are the catalogs of the actual observers or discoverers. In their catalogs, these are the way they're numbered. And we're familiar with people like Otto Struve, William Struve, John Whitcomb Herschel. And there is a appendix online, not online, excuse me, on the AL website that explains the abbreviations and designations. You don't necessarily need that, but it's interesting information. But what this gets to is the fact that what this means is that the magnitudes of the primaries are such that they're so dim, they do not carry Flamsteed numbers and they do not carry Bayer numbers. So to identify them, I've chosen, because this is an advanced program, we want to put a little rigor in this. So I'm showing you what their actual discoverer designations are in this column. In the next column over are the Henry Draper numbers, which can be accessed easily on device or software, and also the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory numbers. So they can be found. Most printed star charts now, I notice, have stopped designating double stars by putting that little horizontal line through them. So I do have people that want a book or a sheet printed, ask me where they find that information. And there are several resources for that I do mention online if anybody needs that information. So as with the first club, I keep referring to clubs, they used to be called clubs, not right, John, 10 years ago, program is magnitudes and separation. On this list, you'll notice in the column to the right of magnitudes, there's a triangle and the letter M. That is the symbol for the difference in, or the difference between. So here I've done some little math for you, and I've shown you the difference in magnitudes between the primary and the secondary, so that you can judge for yourself how tough a split it's going to be, particularly if the separations are close. And I've highlighted in two places where we have two 5.8 magnitude stars and the 0, 0 in the difference column, and drop down, and you've got one that's 5 and one that's 9.7, and there's a whopping 4.7 magnitude difference in that guy. And that's a fun one to do. The separations, of course, are, as we've learned in the first program, really, really important in knowing whether we can split these stars. So I know this is a lot of small print. I did my best to get them large enough, and I think on most laptop or other devices, they would be readable, but you don't have a chance if you're looking on your iPhone.
Yeah, Bob, the print here is readable. It's fine. It's small, but it's readable.
Okay, good. I couldn't see it if I had my glasses on, John. That might be one of the faults you want to mention. Don't try to read this without your glasses. Well, looking at the separation column, and I'm going to look at the screen over here. I've circled one that's 188 arc seconds. That's between the B and the C stars, which are both very dim. And then I drop down to one which is 10. But the interesting thing is, on the 10, the magnitudes are almost identical. And on the 188, they're fairly close too. So what we learned is, where the magnitudes are similar, the split is easier. And then the position angles have a special application in this program, and we're going to delay talking about that for a few minutes. So what I've done here is to show, just generally, most of these are doubles. We've got a couple quads and some triples in here just to make it interesting. And even if we haven't done the program, we've probably observed triple systems or quad systems like the double-double. And they're outstanding. We can't get enough of looking at those. I just want to review quickly why it's important to make sure our binoculars are tuned up. We want to focus the eyepieces. We want point sources. We want Akshar point sources in both eyepieces. So be sure to focus the eyepieces separately. Get the right interpupillary adjustment, which is bringing the two objectives together so that you have one circle you're looking through. And very, very important, more so in this program than the basic program, is making sure your binoculars are rock steady. Rock steady. I really don't think it's conceivable that you're going to do this program without some kind of a support, parallelogram, arm, or whatever. You cannot, because most of the binoculars are large and heavy, and you just can't support them enough to get a solid platform. So we have applications here, two solutions. One is kind of a homemade head for a parallelogram, and the other is the observing chair. And I do want to give these guys credit. These are both members who have done the programs. So these are tips from members who have done these programs and are explaining for whoever is interested, presumably other members, how to get a better job done, how to enjoy the programs. These were both printed in the Reflector magazine. Dick Francini's is from June of 2016. And if his name is familiar, he won the sketching award, and his sketch of the lunar surface is on the homepage of the Astronomical League. He's from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Go Packers. And very talented master observer. And this is not only about how he modified his parallelogram and his binoculars, but loaded with tips that he discovered in visually observing these double stars. And then David Whitcomb is fairly recent. His appears in the current, which is June 2021, and he constructed this observing chair based on a folding chair, a camping chair, a deck chair. And that's loaded with information principally about how he designed this chair, but David is not even holding those binoculars. They're actually suspended above his head somehow. So just to pass that along, these people are very enthusiastic and they want to share their ideas and experiences with everyone in the club. So in terms of steadiness, I'll come back to the idea of image stabilized binoculars. In my personal experience, observing through a 12 by 36 IS Canon, that happens to belong to my daughter, I was probably outperforming a 10 by 50. The idea that you have rock solid images and there's no wobble outperforms a wobbly binocular, like 10 times over. So you can effectively be more effective with smaller aperture than a larger aperture when you've got image stabilization. They're really pricey. Not so much in the smaller range. There's also a 10 by 30, but you start getting a north of that and it's some serious money. And then my caveat consistently is learn to be a patient, methodical, binocular observer. And I'll reiterate that. This is a specialization. We're off into a subcategory of observing not only deep sky objects. Stars are, they don't get enough credit for it, but stars are deep sky objects with the observing of these tight double stars. And it takes patience and being methodical, being professional, being a real astronomer and being patient and waiting for your moment. This is the page of Appendix A of the list, which we saw earlier, and I just want to take a minute now and spend some time with this whole idea of position angles. In the first program, they were there because it's an important part of observing double stars, but it helps to locate them in the sky because of the orientation of position angles. If you know the position angle and you have a double that's set in a busy field, a field filled with stars, you're often confused about, well, wow, which of these stars is the primary, which is the secondary? If you knew the position angle, you'd be able to determine that. So we take that little bit of knowledge and we're going to then lay this over on top of this next requirement. Part of the requirement of the advanced program, because it's advanced and should have some rigor and requirements, we ask that 3 plots to be done. These are simple. As you can see, they're just drawings. They're not even illustrations or sketches. They're basically drawings. I'll even cut you a slack if you don't have glass to draw a circle around to create your circle. But this is based on a 360-degree circle. And this is projected up into the night sky with north at the 0-degree position, going counterclockwise through east, south, west, and back to north again. And as we do that, we gain degrees, as you can see on this illustration, with the center star, the primary, being in the center, and the components being scattered around that. We'll see another example or two of that. This is an example of this online under the requirement, showing you exactly how to draw this plot. Everything you need to do this plot is given to you. So first, the position angle. Now the component stars are measured. Now they're measured by the likes of Hipparcos, although this was for a long time a very valuable activity of amateur astronomers, as much as variable star observation still is. But now that's less of a factor. People can still do it with the equipment because they still enjoy it. But now we're relying on very accurate measurements being done by the likes of Hipparcos and Gaia. So we're measured in this particular AB set at a position angle of 308 degrees, and this is how it's expressed on the plot. And this is the exercise that you must do to qualify for this award. The separation is shown this way. I'm not particular about any specific size as long as the components have a black circle that in some way represent the difference in size between the two. And there's no rigor in the exact separation as long as it's consistent between the plots. You're going to do 3 plots, and if this measures like 30 arc seconds, then I'd like to see 30 arc seconds measured this way in all the plots. But I'm not going to even niggle about that. But we are looking for accuracy and legibility in everything. Okay, so what is this? Why are we doing this? What good is this anyway? You're just having us do this to waste our time. No. This is a snapshot of a real-time ongoing process. This is the procedure that we use to determine if one of the procedures we use to determine whether these 2 stars are physically bound, are binary stars, bound gravitationally, or line of sight, or common proper motions. What are we looking for? Over a period of time, we record the position angles of the A star versus the B star. And this is Sirius A and Sirius B, often called the PUP. And this is a 50-year orbital period. And you can get the idea here. The big black dot is the primary, the small black dot is the secondary as it orbits the primary. So you can see that the star we just looked at, we'll go back to this, is a snapshot in time that eventually is going to yield this. This is how we determine the period. Once we know that, we can tell a lot about the system itself, the masses of the components and various mechanics of the system. And this is our most reliable way to determine the mass of stars. And that's why we're doing this. This is not a plot that he would be generating, but what I'm trying to communicate is the usefulness of the plot and why it's important. What this doesn't show us is the precise orbit of these stars. And I've got a little piece of animation here, because it's not as though the B star The A star is essentially standing still in the system. We know they're moving through the Milky Way, but and the other star is moving around it. They're actually moving around a common center of gravity marked by the X in this animation. So that's kind of the scoop on the plots. I need three plots to demonstrate that we understand the concept. 2 will be of double stars that you have observed. You pick off the list. Whatever you want to draw plots on is fine with me. 2 that you've observed, and a third of a multiple system, whether or not you've observed it. And I've often thought, why didn't you just make them observe a third, a triple star? But anyway, that's the way the rule is here. So I have 2 plots looking like the top one and 1 looking like the bottom one that need to be submitted for your submission to be acceptable. And these give people a little problem, and I understand that. We'll work through this together. The thing that I like about working with the people for the binocular double stars, we get to know one another. We met in the first one. That was kind of our introduction to the relationship, and then in the advanced, we started going steady. And we chat back and forth. I try to be as helpful as possible. And by the time we get through the advanced, I actually develop pretty good relationships, friendships with people who've been through both the program. And I really like that. I'm always open for questions. I would much rather someone come before they start the program and ask me a question rather than later. I have a hard time rejecting a log because a major mistake has been made, but I will. Because anyone that can read, the instructions are there in black and white for them. And I'm always available to answer questions. Or just tell me what you're doing. Tell me a double star you observed last night. I'd like that. So all the data you need for these plots is contained within the data set in the observing list. And you saw that as we went through the list. I will go back to it. I give you the magnitudes, I give you the separations, and I give you the position angles. All you have to do is to put that on paper. So this tells you about the logging. This is all standardized, all the Astronomical programs online. Aaron and his fellow coordinators have done a wonderful job organizing and standardizing this, which is an easy thing when, what do you say, John? We have almost 70 programs now. Every year I turn around and you guys have added 6 or 7 programs.
There are quite a few, yes.
So it's hard to standardize when you've got so many different factors in play here. And I just want to congratulate you on particularly some of the more recent ones that are really meaty. They really put meat on the bone. Some of the more, I'd say, legacy programs, like the Messier maybe, or the Lunar, they're great programs to introduce people. But as we've marched on here, as the technology and the science has changed, we've also adapted. And I think that's a very good thing. And the submission requirements. So basically, it's the observing log. The requirements for the logging is on the website, plus the 3 plots. In the basic program, the extracurricular activity with the naked eye. There's no naked eye in this. All the separations are far too close to the naked eye. So they go hand in hand. And if you're listening to me or watching this and you're interested in doing this, but it's been like a year or so since you've done the basic program, I strongly recommend you go back and read the information that's there because we've always built on that as we go and design this program. So that's all I'm really going to say about that. Oh, other than this other important thought is when you finish this, you're now qualified to continue on toward the Master Observer Award. Um, both the basic binocular double star program as well as this are stepping stones to that award. There are, what is it, John, 8 or 9 binocular programs that need to be completed uh, qualify for that pin. So that's the Pleiades. That's nice.
Yeah, I think we have, you said 8 or 9 programs. One of them is the Southern Skies, which a lot of people aren't going to be able to do just because of where they live. But, you know, the first 8 that you have there can certainly be attempted by binocular observers in the United States.
Yeah, this says at least 8, right? So if you're not in the Southern Hemisphere, you're going to have to do all 8 of these. But I know people have. I'm sure there are people that, we have some new ones here, don't we, John, that have been introduced in the last few years. Like the lunar observing program with binoculars, I think is relatively new.
Yeah, well, we try to have them complete or fill the full gamut of objects in the sky, but some things you really can't. Planets, for instance, binoculars just don't have the magnification for that. But about everything else, binoculars can be a real aid to use.
Well, I think that have made many members happy who, we talked a little bit about binoculars being great for beginners. I do think that's, of course, the case. Um, Binoculars can be expensive, but you don't have to spend a lot of money. I always think that you got to buy something. It's like we complain about department store telescopes. You got to spend enough money, to get a good instrument, but you don't have to spend an inordinate amount of money. If you go shopping, some of the fine vendors who support the Astronomical League have fine equipment that we'd like to see reviewed, and they advertise, and thank you very much to them in the Reflector magazine. Thank you for supporting us. All right, so John, that's going to kind of wrap things up.
All righty.
If you guys have questions for me or want me to.
You mentioned just about binoculars in general. This is binocular double stars, and you like it and all that. But remember, you can use binoculars for a lot of other things too. So I've been in the hobby for many, many, many years. And this instrument is probably the one I use most, even more so than my telescope, because it's when you're doing telescopic examinations, it's very handy to have a pair of binoculars to help you find the objects and understand what's in the surrounding sky. So I like that. But one thing I'd like to add to something that she said, you do this program, you do the binocular double star program,
Right.
and then you proceed onto this one. Well, whether you know it or not, by the time you're into this program and like halfway through it or so, you really have become a better observer. It's something that comes in slowly and all that, but I tell you, the more you're out there, the more you're doing this stuff, the better observer that you're going to be. And a lot of these skills are transferable to some of our other programs. So you go on to the, let's say, variable star observing. Well, a lot of the same ideas apply to that. You go on to, Maynard and I are joking a little bit about the stellar evolution program and how cool that is. Well, this information will help you complete that program as well. So it's a good stepping stone. And I would encourage people to go ahead and try this program once they.
I think this program has a dual advantage of helping people get the most out of their binoculars. Mm-hmm. So then they can go to the other programs and be assured that their binocular is performing for them as good as possible.
Yeah, and also you were talking about some of the tasks that you provide. Well, our observing program coordinators are there to help people with their questions, with their issues. Sometimes there are some real problems to help them with that, how to resolve it, trying to figure out another way of doing it, or just tell them what the rules are, so to speak. So a person in your position, Bob, is very important to keep the program running smoothly and keeping the whole thing going. So I appreciate you doing that.
Well, I enjoy it, and I don't think the members have to give a lot of thought to this, but we are volunteers, as you are. We're all volunteers. We do the best we can. But, but during COVID earlier this year, I was deluged with logs. I could hardly keep up. And now I haven't seen one probably for 3 weeks. So it comes and it goes, but when it gets busy, it can get very busy. And we do our best to keep up to it. Aaron has kind of given us the parameters of try to get things out in 30 days. And I mean, I do my best. Sometimes I skate a little close to that. But I always email a member who has submitted a log, whether it be snail mail or email, telling them I received it. And then I tell them that I've put the certificate in the mail and to let me know, if it doesn't arrive or whatever. So I think that's just part of, being conscientious about the job. And I know the awards I receive from all the other coordinators. I'm always very impressed with the care they take.
Maynard.
Bob, I've got one question, and that is, you showed, I believe it's Sirius, the orbital pattern of A and B. It seems that a lot of the orbital pattern projections that I access on some of the software, yes, that's it. B is going to get lost in the glare of A. Is Sirius a good advanced binocular double that you can actually see over a period of decades or years the orbital movement of these stars?
Not in binoculars. No, not in
I'm
binoculars.
sorry, what was that?
Not in binoculars. The separations are too tight.
Yeah.
I know that I haven't even been able to. Not that I put a lot of time in it, but I've not even tried it in my telescope.
Yes.
I'll tell you the one that's
I didn't
really,
think there were any through the binoculars you could see, and I've got collections of photographs that go back a few decades, and I haven't been able to discern one yet, but we're told by a few folks that some of these are possible to view. But it seems like the ones that move the fastest are going to be lost in the glare of the primary star.
the combination I love is Rigel A and B. That's pretty. That's fairly easy to split, but the difference in brightness is incredible. Not for binoculars, but in a telescope.
Right.
One of the early slides that you showed of the Washington Double Star catalog, excuse me, is listed the number of objects that are considered to be physical and the number of objects that are considered to be, optical, and then over 111,000 are unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume they're unknown simply because there hasn't been enough time to measure any discernible change of the B star orbiting the A star, I guess.
It's probably that, as well as if you get on the WDS website, it's very interesting. They're not getting enough measurements of some of these stars. The last measurement might be 1908 or something. I'm looking at this, and the second column over is the epoch and first and last. The first column is the first time these were measured, and the last is the last time they were measured. And I'm looking at 1902 and 2015. So the problem is that some of these are the same distance from each other, but they're common proper motion. They're traveling together, but they're not orbiting each other. And that's why we have to try to determine, whether they're a physical relationship, and some of them have orbits of thousands of years. It was William Herschel that first invented the concept of the binary star. At that time, in his era, two stars close to one another were just called close stars. They were all thought to be unrelated, that they're just different distances, particularly where one is brighter than the other. Well, the brighter one is closer to us. And he started cataloging these because he was trying to use these to measure the motion of stars relative to one another. And what he determined, he looked at this catalog over a number of years, like 10 years he was at this. You know him, he was at it. He then decided that what he was seeing in these measurements was that one was actually orbiting the other, not traveling with it or separating itself from it, but actually orbiting it. And that's where, you know, he actually discovered the concept of binary stars because of his measurements over years and years and years. But they're obviously, I track this. This changes periodically because the measurements change all the time. Particularly, Hipparchus and Gaia fed all kinds of information in. And I think the first time I looked at this, there were like 124,000 systems that had been identified in binary. So we're closing the gap with more precise measurements, John. It'll be interesting to see how that changes.
Excellent, excellent. Any other questions here? Okay, then Bob, well, thank you again for this program. You're the program coordinator for several programs, right? You are the the globular cluster.
Yes, that was my first one.
Mm-hmm.
I started that in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of got hooked on the whole idea, and that's when I kind of got the idea that I'd author one myself, and with Aaron's help, it came to fruition.
Well, that's great. It shows that you're really into this. You put a lot of time, certainly, developing the program and carrying it along. Being the coordinator over a number of years now, the Astronomical League and the amateur astronomy community, thank you for your services for doing this, and are grateful that you and other people step in to provide services like this.
John, we could say the same about you, and I think we'd both probably say, I get more out of it than I put into it, right?
Well, you do. I'm sure you do, because it's like teaching. To learn it, you got to teach it, and so you come away learning quite a bit. And programs like this, all of them make you a better observer. And by the end of the day, or I guess I should say by the end of the night, come inside and you feel pretty good about it all. You really enjoy it, and you actually want to go back out in the near future and continue this. So with that, again, thank you, Bob, for your work. Thank you for Maynard for joining us. And we hope to see everybody out there again on another one of our programs. So with that, I bid you all adieu, and I'll see you in cyberspace.
Thank you, John.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Bob.